to a culture, which will be insulting to a sex, which will be insulting to a kind of person.
Honestly, has Narendra Modi done himself more harm than good by dragging Shashi Tharoor's wife, into a public comment that's in remarkably poor taste?
Shashi Tharoor's wife, she is at the center of the whole controversy. How can you ignore Robert Vadra if you are discussing corruption allegations related to it? He may be son-in-law of somebody, but then allegations are against him. Similarly, it is Sunanda Pushkar who has received sweat equity and who has got the financial gain only because of the minister's intervention.
Right,
you attack Mr. Rao, you attack the issue.
Or Shashi.
You attack Shashi if you have the courage of conviction. You don't attack a lady. And if you have to attack a lady, then attack a lady on the issue, but you don't attack a lady by passing what is a crude sexist remark which says, unki 50 crore ki girlfriend. What you're doing are three things. Number one, you are putting a price tag on a gender that you may not respect, but the world does. Number two, you are causing graver damage to yourself, which you don't realize. Number three, you are lowering, as I said, the discourse of politics and politicians. Narendra Modi mustn't only be a leader, he must sound like a leader. John F. Kennedy never said, screw you, you've got to help America. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. He could have used language which is unbefitting of any politician. And I agree with Shazia. The point is, if corruption is your plank, then have the courage to raise the issue. By deflecting the issue, you're causing yourself grave harm.
But I think these comments are being misinterpreted, and absolutely there is no sexist angle to it, and it is being pulled out and it may selectively being. This is absolutely not the intention, nor the content of it.
Let me just take you back 2 days to another remark made by Narendra Modi where he said Sonia Gandhi does not understand the problems of the average woman because she has never entered the kitchen. Again equating a woman with the kitchen. Do you believe we're hearing the language of sexism over and over again?
I think you are stretching it a little too far. If women activists want to make an issue, fine. I think what he said is a link to the governmental policy, because this government has imposed a huge burden on the women of this country, on the small households, and the number of LPG cylinders which have been reduced. This would be one of the most unpopular decisions this government has taken in 5 years, and he is trying to drive at that point. And absolutely, I think a woman who doesn't know how...
But do you believe that we're now hearing a language of sexism that's entered political discourse, and it's now very difficult to separate it or take it out of political discourse?
It's very easy to start playing with individual names. The fact is that I think, given the fact that the Women's Reservation Bill, for example, seems to be forever put into cold storage, male politicians are, in a sense, using words, languages, meaning I think Jaiswal's remarks at his birthday party are a very good example. It doesn't matter who it is, they all feel that this objectification, this putting down of the sex or of a caste or of a creed is all part of a discourse. Fortunately, we have rules and fairly strict ones where casteism has now gone out of the public discourse largely. But look what the CAPs are doing, look what they're doing as far as the public discourse on women is concerned. So women are the new soft target.
On the other hand, he is most sensitive towards girl child and women. And you go and find out how government is appreciated.
Shazia, come in on that.
The government of Gujarat has been extremely positive in taking very initiatives.
But Mr. Rao, talk about that. I'm telling you, you will gain more public support if you talk about the issues. Yes. When you make it personality ridden, you create a divide.
I think you have missed the real point of it. And
we have that comment. We can play it out again and let our viewers be the judge. But
yes, let them judge it. I don't think people who have known the background of this controversy, IPL Kochi controversy, would really hold anything against Mr. Modi.
Let's talk about the background of that controversy then.
Yes.
This is in effect, Mr. Tharoor, the charge against him is that he used his power and influence arising out of his office improperly in the interests of a business consortium that won the bid, Rendezvous Sports World, for the Kochi IPL team. he was not a shareholder in Rendezvous, but his friend got something called sweat equity, which he
the
then
same
gave back.
lady.
But in a sense, then
No, and
why
there
not?
is no
why
reason
not target Mr. Tharoor directly? If you're talking about corruption,
No, because-
why not
because-
target him? And why, when you do bring in his then girlfriend, now wife, why do it in these terms?
No, but it is because of her involved. He then tried to dissociate and said this is not a payoff for me. But eventually he resigned because the government itself, perhaps the Prime Minister himself, was sort of
All right,
convinced.
yes, Shazia, you've been trying to make a point for a while. Carry on.
What I'm saying is that corruption is gender blind or gender neutral, to say the least. And there have been serious corruption charges leveled against women chief ministers such as Jayalalitha, Mayawati. We all talk about them. But there is a way and a manner in which you address a woman or address an issue. Here there is, if he wants to talk about 5% sweat equity, and indeed there was an alleged act of wrongdoing because of which Shashi Tharoor did indeed resign, and nothing significantly transpired in the last few months, and then he resurfaced again in the cabinet. So there is something indeed to be talked about. But if he wanted to bring attention to this, he wanted to shine a light on this reshuffle and talk about corruption, this was not the way to do it. He scored a self-goal and he obfuscated from the real issue. And I would have been very happy to discuss the corruption of Ms. Pushkar or Mr. Tharoor and IPL Kochi. But when you talk about a woman in such unsavory terms and say 50 crore ki girlfriend, I have a huge problem with that. And also when we say this language is of the Aam Aadmi, I'm sorry. Aam Aadmi is not a gutter snipe, and this is not the way they talk. And they don't talk like this, and I think this has a elitist bias when you say this is the language of the streets. I'm sorry, this is the language this political class uses all the time, and Shri Prakash Jaiswal has used it. If you remember, during Women's Reservation Bill, the discourse was about by Sharad Yadav on par kati aurte. Do you remember that? So short cropped hair meant that you are emancipated and means women should not. So these comments are made all the time. When it came to Sati, the senior leaders of BJP actually supported it in the Roop Kanwar case. When it came to Shah Bano case, when a 75-year-old Muslim woman's rights were concerned, or I think 80-year-old woman's rights, the Congress backtracked and did not speak for her. So the track record of all the parties where women's rights are concerned,
you're saying the sexism goes far beyond language, it's much more deeply entrenched.
And it's also got nothing to do with, Shazia's point about it being the language of the ruling class is also not right. What is happening is that if one listens to sounds, what is happening is across society, this kind of debasement of women has become a kind of the new norm, and that frightens me. I'm not saying that I blame the Aam Aadmi or anything of the kind. I'm just saying this is the language that you're hearing. You're hearing it in all kinds of places, and it's not about political correctness or political parties. It is the kind of society that you're spinning downwards into.
All right, I think that's a very interesting point you're making, and this is where I'd like to bring in these visuals, if we could. If Narendra Modi's sexist remarks weren't bad enough today, we also got these shocking pictures from Thiruvananthapuram airport, where Sunanda Tharoor was actually molested by crowds who were there. She was trapped in the middle of them. She had to hit out to get away from so-called supporters and workers who had apparently come to greet them. Those visuals, a grim reminder of what it's really like now to be a woman in the middle of any crowd in India. If we could get those pictures up for you, I think we have a problem, but we will try and refer to those pictures. Yes, I believe we have them, if we can. Yes, those are the pictures outside Thiruvananthapuram airport, where they're completely surrounded by people, and this in effect could actually happen to any woman anywhere in the country. And
ഇവർക്കെതിരെ നടപടി വേണമെന്ന് ശശി തരൂർ ആവശ്യപ്പെട്ടു. ചടങ്ങിനിടെ സുനന്ദയെ അപമാനിച്ച കോൺഗ്രസ് പ്രവർത്തകരെ.
So if you'd like to sort of bear upon these pictures at all.
I think we sadly see what is actually being reflected in society at large. It's very fine to talk about gender equality. It makes for nice seminar material. But in reality, when leadership at the top doesn't respect women in the manner it should, when you have the kind of innuendos and insinuation, I'm not only talking about Narendra Modi, he's the lightning rod this evening, but if you look at leaders, even from even senior statesmen used to talk about Sonia Gandhi and saying Gungi Gudiya. The point is, we don't have the patience, the intellectual honesty and the integrity to stick to issues. So we are very, very easily swayed by low-hanging fruit. Populism cannot replace pedigree. And the day you start replacing pedigree with populism, you bring yourself to the state that we are in. You will have this repeat itself with greater vigor, because people will not be accountable. It will make for very good media discussions like the one we are having, and people will smile and laugh in their private spaces, even though they will make a pretense of respecting the women that they are with. So here's what I suggest. The Election Commission must form, in addition to all the stuff that it's doing, it must form an idiom of behavior which is both audio and visual. You cannot have people taking the kind of stand that people are taking today. And it's not only about Sunanda, it's not about Narendra Modi, it's far deeper. Look at what they do in Parliament. I mean, it's the pedigree, it's the behavioral norm which is
Narasimha Rao, do you believe politicians would come on board a move like this?
I don't think Election Commission, they have already got a big job on their hands, and they're not able to conduct even cleaner elections. So I think there are many challenges. I think it will become a question of interpretation. A state